How's the WrestleMania 41 card next year in Vegas going to shape out to be? We don't really know, but 4 matches that I think definitely would benefit the show the most, and the 4 matches I personally would like to see on the show the most, like the big 4 sellout marquee matches that you market, would be these 4. Roman Reigns versus The Rock, non-title match. It doesn't need a championship. I mean, this honestly could be the biggest match in WrestleMania history, maybe even the biggest match in WWE history. Final Boss versus Tribal Chief, it's a must. It's a must. Now, from a business perspective, if, hypothetically, because we don't know yet, if WWE is going to have WrestleMania 42 at Wembley Stadium in London and they want to wait to do Rock and Roman for that show, I understand and respect it from a business aspect. I get why they would do that, but I mean, Vegas, I feel like it's a perfect place for it, man, especially if you're a gambling person, you know, you bet on one person. Like, I feel like Vegas is just all around, the aura and the environment would just fit Rock and Roman perfectly, man. No title needed, like, just pure storytelling between Roman Reigns and The Rock. It would be sensational. I think that match definitely would benefit WrestleMania 41 a lot next year. John Cena versus Randy Orton, non-title match, no title needed, man. I feel like, honestly, this should happen for 2 reasons. Obviously, number 1, nostalgia plays a big factor. I mean, Cena and Orton are 2 of the biggest stars from their eras. Orton's one of the best heels of all time. Cena, one of the biggest baby faces ever. And number 2, we all know the history and we know the feud between these 2. I mean, they've never had a one-on-one match at WrestleMania. Granted, if you go back and look at the history of all the matches they've had from pay-per-views and Raws and SmackDowns, most of their matches were decent at best. Some of them weren't even that great. They've also had some epic matches though, but I feel like nostalgia just hits harder than anything in this, and that's the main reason I feel like this should happen. I think John Cena, this being his last WrestleMania competing as a competitor, as a superstar, I think he deserves a big marquee match at WrestleMania, and I think Randy Orton is the perfect opponent because of the history, the nostalgia factor. I think fans would eat it up. I think fans would really buy into it. It's Cena versus Orton. That sells instantly. I just feel like, you know, these 2 deserve to have at least one WrestleMania one-on-one match before it's all said and done, and next year is the really only time it could happen, or it'll never happen. So Cena vs. Orton is definitely one that I think should happen next year. For the World Heavyweight title, Gunther versus Seth Rollins. And no, I would not have Seth Rollins win the Royal Rumble. I would have him win the Elimination Chamber. You know, these 2 have never had a match in WWE. Like, this is bound to happen at some point, and nobody can tell me this match wouldn't be a classic. This has to be a classic, a WrestleMania classic, a WWE classic. Is Gunther versus Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins, one of the best wrestlers in the world, you know, especially in the last decade. Gunther right now arguably could be the best in the world. Many people consider him to be the best in the world. Bell to bell, in-ring wise, to me, he is the best. Gunther is really him. Like, nobody else has his uniqueness, his aura. Like, he's an old schoolist type wrestler. Like, that's the type of vibes that he gives off, and nobody else feels like him on the roster. You compare him with somebody like Seth Rollins, who could put on a great match with anybody you put him in the ring with. Gunther versus Seth at WrestleMania, bro, that's feeding generations. This one might be interesting for some people, but let me explain. Yes, for the WWE Championship, Cody Rhodes versus CM Punk. Now, there's a lot of different scenarios you can do here, but if you go back and watch that promo in the beginning of the year in January leading up to this year's Royal Rumble, my gosh, I think there's a perfect story there, like a perfect story there to tell for this match, man. CM Punk said that he was more of the American dream than Cody Rhodes was because CM Punk came up from the gutters and, you know, didn't come from the wrestling royalty family and had to fight, scratch and claw to get to where he was at. And then Cody fired back and said, I'm more CM Punk than you because you cut that pipe bomb promo and I did pretty much everything you said you were going to do in that promo but didn't do. I think there's a perfect story there to tell. Like, we know that Drew McIntyre injured, CM Punk in the Royal Rumble, but Cody Rhodes is the one who eliminated Punk to win that match. So from a story perspective, they were the last 2. Punk was that close to going to the main event of WrestleMania, but Cody's the one who stopped that from happening. And we all know CM Punk, should have main evented WrestleMania years ago. He should have main evented WrestleMania 29. That was his spot that he deserved, but due to maybe WWE backstage politics, it was taken away from him and he never got that spot. He wins the Rumble. You know he's going to want the WrestleMania main event spot, but he has to fight somebody who equally could be in the WrestleMania main event for him to be a big sellout. And he also, to me, from a storyline perspective, should want to beat the top champion to prove that he's still the best in the world to take that top spot, and that's Cody Rhodes right now. I think there's a perfect story, and maybe that also could lead to maybe for some people, Homelander Cody turning heel because Punk could be the top babyface, and honestly, they might pick Punk over Cody. I could see the fans cheering CM Punk over Cody. That's not crazy. Like, they've been rocking with Cody, all the way, but Cody's still champ by next year's WrestleMania. That's a whole year, and people may be like, all right, Cody, you had your time, you finished your story, you've been champ this long, but CM Punk is still popular among the fans, and he's never got his moment at WrestleMania, and people could, switch up and say, you know what, we want Punk to get his moment. I could see the fans siding with Punk over Cody. Maybe that leads to Cody, tapping into his heel persona. I don't know, I'm just throwing out scenarios, but I think this would be a match that people wouldn't have talked about or expected much, but one that definitely would be a big marquee match and one that I would fully be invested into.